Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. I always get caught out when my voice gets back into my ears and I end up hearing my voice again, but I do apologize for that. Well, it's Tuesday evening and it's evening talk right here on Salam Media. Of course, it's a month of Muharram. كل عام وأنتم بالخير الصحة والسلامة. We wish you all the best in the beginning of the new Islamic year. And of course, that is Muharram. But it's also a very special day in South Africa. It's Women's Day. And we would like to wish every single one of you happy Women's Day. And of course, let's not forget the sacrifices of the freedom fighters of 1956. It's 66 years since 20,000 women marched on the Union buildings, and they marched for freedom. They marched to make sure that the past laws would not also get onto women. They voted with their feet to Pretoria. They marched to Pretoria. And of course, every year on the 9th of August, we commemorate, celebrate, and remember the sacrifices of those ladies, those very, very brave. And it was ladies from all walks of life. We're talking professional ladies. We're talking about ladies that were looking after children at home for their white bosses. And of course, inshallah Aziz, we definitely are going to be getting a lot of information about women's movement in South Africa. But without further ado, let me introduce you to my first interview for the day, inshallah. And 7:15, it's politics. And this time around, we go to the South African Parliament. Now, Parliament Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngqakula on Friday announced that Parliament will initiate a process that could lead to an impeachment inquiry against President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, political parties will have until September the 1st to nominate eminent South Africans, including a retired judge, I'm told, to consider the evidence to justify an impeachment process. So, how does this differ from the usual motion of no confidence? And will the process ensure South Africa's first citizen, that's Cyril Ramaphosa, will it ensure that he'll be sanctioned for the Pala Pala Farmgate scandal? And hopefully, joining me in a few seconds from now is a former chair of Parliament's Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Mr. Themba Godi. Mr. Godi, good evening and welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, sir. I see you are paging through the Constitution of the Republic, knowing fully well this is a very, very constitutional discussion. Before we go into that, Themba, I'd like to thank you first of all for your time and wish you and your family a very happy Women's Day.
Thank you very much. We had a happy day indeed.
Fantastic, Themba. Let me just get straight into it. We are told that there's going to be a process, a panel that's going to review the evidence against the president and then decide, if the impeachment process can go ahead. As somebody who spent many years in Parliament and as chair of the SCOPA committee, could you perhaps, refresh our minds as to what kind of process is this? Is there something new about this process, or have we seen it somewhere else before?
Well, this is new.
Mm-hmm.
It has not happened before. Section 89 of the Constitution has not been used before. It will be the first time. However, it might be important to reflect on Section 89 and Section 102. Section 89 is about the removal of the president, whereas Section 102 is about a motion of no confidence on either the cabinet without the president or a motion of no confidence on the president. And these, because they differ substantively, follow different processes. What is going to be followed in this particular instance, it's something that has not been done before. And yet we know with the motion of no confidence, we had plenty of them during the era of President Jacob Zuma. Now, if you look at Section 89 on the removal of the president and Section 189 on the removal of any head of the Chapter 9 institutions, you realize that the bases are more or less the same, except that in relation to the president, there is an addition around violation of the constitution, serious violation of the constitution or the law. But you also do have misconduct, incapacity, just as you have it with the chapter 9s, where you have misconduct, incapacity, and incompetence. So, however, from what has been announced, it appears that the process that is going to be followed will be the same as what is being followed in relation to the current suspended public protector. So it is going to follow more or less the same process.
Okay, Themba, thank you for that explanation. The reason why I asked that question is because, you know, a skeptic will say, well, the ANC enjoys a majority in parliament. At what point will this process be put to the parliamentarians and their votes?
Look, I think if we followed closely the happenings on this matter, some of the parties in parliament had written to the speaker some times ago,
Right.
and she had been stalling. And it was, I think, week before last when there was a meeting of a number of political parties where they all agreed, ganged up together to say, no, we want this Section 89 committee to be set up, or else we're going to court. So the speaker has agreed. Now, having agreed, there is one process that must happen before it goes to members of parliament for deliberations. A committee of experts will have to be set up where anyone and every one of the parties who have evidence that they believe the president has violated any of the provisions of Section 89, they must present it. And these people must look at it and advise parliament to say, yes, we think there is a prima facie case that must be answered by the president, or they should say, no, we don't think that there is any case. So, but then that should be a vote in the House to say, yes, we think there is a case that the president must answer, or to say, no, we don't think there is a case, and then it ends there. So if they say we think there is a case, then parliament must then set up a committee comprised of the members of parliament, and then be able to engage the president in more or less the same way as what we see with the public protector, calling witnesses and produce evidence. And once they are done, they must then go back to parliament with their report, which parliament can either reject or accept. So if it rejects, well, that's end of the matter. If it accepts, then the president will have to live with all the consequences as outlined in the constitution.
Okay. Now, Themba, let's look at this expert panel. Who is going to make up the expert panel, and is it going to be democratically chosen or selected? What is the process for this expert panel that is going to decide whether there's a case against Ramaphosa or not to face impeachment?
Well, what happens here is that political parties represented in parliament must submit names to the speaker of the people that they think should serve in that panel. And then parliament will have to, let's assume each party, well, firstly, theoretically, it means each party can submit 3 names, or parties can come together and those that are aligned agree on names. So you have fewer names, but then thereafter, there should be a decision on who are the 3. If you have 10 names, you must still get 3. If you have 5 names, you must still get 3. But what the rules say is that one of them can be a retired judge. So you'll find that because these are matters of law, matters of the constitution, they will definitely want to bring in people who have a a legal background, not somebody who has a broadcasting background or a teaching background, because these are legal matters.
Yeah. So Themba, in terms of what happens next, we will then, I suppose we are going to wait and see who's going to form this panel, and then the work will then begin. Why is it, Themba, that this impeachment process has taken this kind of direction? In the past, we've seen numerous motions of no confidence against President Zuma, which he survived, and eventually his party recalled him. It looks like this particular president, it's not that easy, because the ATM had been trying for a very long time to get this motion of no confidence stuck, and they were trying to get it, a secret ballot. They failed. So it seems like this has been a long time coming. I know that the Pala thing happened 2 years ago, but in your assessment of the case, or the long journey towards the impeachment of Ramaphosa, how do you see this development?
Well, once again, I think let's go back to the distinction between Section 89 and 102. Section 89, which is a motion of no confidence,
Right.
does not provide reasons. It says if, and very interestingly, a motion of no confidence, all you need is just a majority, 50 plus 1. And in terms of Section 102, a motion of no confidence, if that motion is passed, the president must resign. If it's against the president, then it means the whole cabinet must resign. But if the motion is against the cabinet only, then it means the cabinet must resign. And that's where it ends. And yet, when you look at Section 89, Section 8, and in terms of Section 102, you don't need to have any legal reasons. Usually, it is used to raise purely political issues, like you are corrupt, there is high unemployment, we're the most unequal country in the world, therefore we feel you need to go. Whereas in terms of Section 89, you must have violated the constitution or the law, misconduct, incapacity. And then, in terms of this process that is being undertaken, you need a 2/3 majority to vote in favor of the removal of the president. And when that happens, the president loses all his benefits as a president. Remember, a president gets his salary just like judges for life. So if he's removed in terms of Section 89, he loses everything. Now, the reason you recall that initially the call was for a motion of no confidence.
Right.
But with the Pala case, where there were issues raised around contravention of the law, which is one of the bases for which it can be called, then instead of Section 102 of motion of no confidence, then they changed and said, no, we need a Section 89 committee. So that is one. But then it was delayed because, like I say, the speaker, from the letters, the exchange of letters that I saw, was saying, I'm applying my mind. I'm still applying my mind. And so it stalled and stalled and stalled. And now that she has agreed, it is in September that the people are going to be selected. And then they must report somewhere. They're slated in September, and then they must start working in October.
Right.
And the ANC Congress is in December, so you see the report might come to Parliament in February or March or June next year.
Wow. So it's actually a very, very calculated process from what you are explaining to us politically. Themba, this is my question. Let me ask you this, and I know you've almost answered it in that last comment, but the Pala farm gate scandal, how significant is it in order to secure impeachment or impeachment processes against the president? Would you say Ramaphosa is sitting safe where he is, or he should be worried?
Well, look, me and you have spent evidence or information about what has happened. And he has responded to the public protector. How he has framed his responses might be very interesting in deciding what happens.
Right.
But also the reports by that dodgy character, his chief of security, Wale Ruto, might be critical, and also the report by the current National Police Commissioner might be critical. But on the surface, the issues are around not reporting a crime. He's the president of the country.
Yes.
Criminality happens at his place, and he decides not to report it. Yes, he says money was stolen. He says it was not $4 million. It was much less than that. Well, how much was it? Was it 9,000 rands or anything? That, because then there's a threshold of how much you can keep. So if the amount goes beyond the threshold, why? He spoke about initially the money was a proceed of selling animals because he's in that business. Well, the question would be the SARS. Is SARS aware of how much you have been making? But also, you say you are in that business. Is this not a contravention of the Constitution? Because the Constitution says once you become the president, you should have no other work or business that you do. So is that not a contravention? So, and then there are issues around people who were arrested by these rogue elements, taken to his farm and tortured there, and then bribed not to talk about it. So I think when you look at the sum of all those things, and I'm talking purely at a legalistic level, not at a political or moral level, purely at a legalistic level, I think there is something that he needs to explain.
Absolutely. Well, Themba, thank you very much for your time. I think we'll leave it at that. You certainly have given us a lot to think about, and I really appreciate your time this evening and your weighing in on the issues. As somebody that spent many years in Parliament, you obviously understand very, closely how those systems work. And I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Themba Godi, former chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts in Parliament, and of course, him sharing with us his opinion regarding the latest impeachment process that has begun or that will begin for President Cyril Ramaphosa. Bringing our time to 30 minutes after 7 p.m. Central African time. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we return with our Palestine/Women's Day feature, and we'll be speaking to Fasiha Hassan. Stay tuned.